Excerpt 1, Ron. Okay, cool. So the third part of it, did you dwell on it? David. So dwelling on it, yeah, mooning and thinking about it over and over and telling all my friends about this horrible rejection. But what I could have done was say, great, what do I want to focus on right now? How can I take some of the energy I've got right now and put it to use? Ron. So long as you redirect your energy in some way. David. Yeah, just doing this, I feel much better, more energized. You need to retrain yourself to handle rejection properly. We have done this to the point where it is automatic. When we get rejected, our brains immediately respond because we have been working on it for years. Excerpt 2, David. One thing that we have found to be incredibly helpful in dealing with the inevitability of a certain amount of rejection is putting a percentage likelihood on anything that may happen. Say Ron is getting ready to go out for a date, and I say, what do you think the odds are that you are going to have sex with her tonight? And he says, oh, 20 or 30% or something like that. Or say you're going out on a priming date and ask yourself, what do you think the odds are that she's going to show up? The answer might be something like, oh, I give it about 20%. For some reason, putting percentages on things seems to create some kind of reality conversation around them. You might say, great, there's a woman across the bar. There's a 5% probability that I could end up having sex with her tonight. That's 1 in 20. All I need is 20 of her and I'm golden. It makes it easier to approach a woman and less of a problem if things don't work out. Hey, there was a 5% chance. No big deal that it didn't work out. And a cause for celebration when it does. Percentages and probabilities are another way to boil your interaction with a woman down to something tangible. So instead of it being this whole big scary thing, you say, well, look, there's a 10% chance it will go. No big deal. Excerpt 3, David. Yep. With that girl I was telling you about, I gave it a 50-50 chance that she would go back to her ex-boyfriend because of the way that she was talking about him. That's what occurred. Those are the numbers. That's the game. It makes the task of relating to women easier. Very often, guys start out overly optimistic about their chances, so they're even more devastated if the interaction doesn't work out. They think, great, I have a 90% chance with that woman across the bar. Well, you almost never have a 90% chance with a woman. You must make a more realistic probability statement. We use this tool in every area of our lives. What are the odds of us getting this new book deal? Say we think it's 40%. If so, all we need is a little more than possible deals, and it'll be likely that we'll have a deal going. This is something for you to play around with. It may be useful for you to assign probabilities to things just to make different areas of your life clearer and more like a game. Excerpt 4. The best way to become expert at handling rejection is to practice the rejection process. If you are doing the high program, you are doing the high program, aren't you? It will give you a laboratory in which to experiment with the rejection process. When women don't say hi back, or when they scowl or give you any other response that you consider a rejection, practice the rejection process. First, remind yourself that it's a numbers game and that this is one more no you don't have to hear again on your way to the eventual yes. Second, come up with an explanation for the rejection that has to do with her, not you. And third, redirect your attention, perhaps by asking yourself, what do I want to do right now? Here are some tips for learning the process. Write it down. It really helps if you write down the rejection process as you do it. The reason it's important to write it down is that doing it in your head is deceptive, especially at first. It's easy to do a sloppy and incomplete job if you are just thinking your way through the 3-step process. You will think you have done the process, but you actually will not have. You will have thought about doing it, which your mind will misinterpret as having actually gone through the process for real. Writing down the rejection process gets it out of the realm of the abstract and into the realm of the real. You may want to carry around a pen and some paper so that you can grab a minute or two and write down the process as you go through your day. Some of our students do the process in their heads during the day and then spend 5 minutes in the evening writing down and clarifying what they did in their heads earlier. Some men set aside a couple of minutes twice a day to write down their processes. After you've written it down a number of times, you won't need to write it down so much anymore. Although we still write it down on occasions when rejections seem to get to us more than they ought to. Excerpt 5, practice before you make the approach. Of course, you don't have to wait to experience rejection to use this process. You can also use it when you are thinking about approaching a woman and you feel the fear of rejection trying to stop you. Tell yourself, if this doesn't go the way I want it to, I simply have to remember that dating is a numbers game and that this will be one more no on the way to my eventual yes. So even if she says no to me, this interaction will get me closer to my goal. Also, if she rejects me, it will probably be because she is in her own world or has a headache today or something like that. If she doesn't work out, I'll go talk to that other woman over there. Piece of cake, I'm ready to go. This will prime your brain and put the interaction in perspective. So what if it doesn't work? Eventually one and more will. Do it daily. As with any skill, it is much easier to master handling rejection if you practice the 3-step process on a daily basis. If you say hi to a woman and she ignores you, do the 3-step process. If you flirt with a woman and it doesn't go well, do the 3-step process. If you ask a woman out for coffee and she says no, do the 3-step process. If you go for the first kiss and she says she just wants to be friends, do the 3-step process. You need to practice and have it be so ingrained in your mind that you just do it anytime you need to. This will keep you going and keep you from getting stuck. And that is all that matters. Do it until you get results. Oftentimes, if you use the rejection process thoroughly, you will feel completely better. Sometimes you'll feel 90% better or even only 50% better. That's all okay. It's moving in the right direction, and that's what's important. What is not acceptable is doing the rejection process and feeling 0%, 1%, or 2% better. You aren't done with the process until you feel substantially better and have some energy to move on to something else. If you find you don't feel better, go through the process again. Remind yourself that dating is a numbers game. Really feel how you've just heard one more no that you'll never need to hear again. Come up with new, more compelling reasons that make the rejection her problem, not yours. Find something that you really want to do and that engages your focus, and keep doing this until you feel some emotional movement. Until that happens, you really aren't finished with the rejection process. Excerpt 6. Get rejected. The only circumstance under which you will not need to master the rejection process is if you are not getting rejected, and if you are not getting rejected, you are not doing enough interruptions and initiations with women, and you are much less likely to succeed with them. That's so important. We'll say it again. Getting rejected is a good sign because it means that you are taking action with women, taking risks and doing what you have to create abundant relationships with women in your life. Remember our student who said hi to more than 300 women in a week in his ultimately successful quest to get sex and a girlfriend. He says, I made use of the rejection tools on a daily basis. It kept me alive as I went through lots of women till I found what I was looking for. These tools can help you too. Let me know if you would like me to continue correcting additional sections from your text. Yes, excerpt 7, handling anxiety and fear. On, you need to learn how to handle the inevitable anxiety and fear that comes up when you approach and talk to women. Experiencing fear in these situations is very common, so we're going to teach you some basic skills to overcome panic, and anxiety. Many of us mistakenly think there are men out there who are seduction masters, who never experience any fear and can go up to any woman at any time and seduce them. The truth is that we all get scared and fearful when approaching women. We often get scared when approaching women for the first time, and so do all of our students. The point is to learn how to handle anxiety and panic and approach women even when you feel nervous. Many top athletes experience fear and nervousness before going into a big game, but they've learned to use fear to their advantage. They've learned to use the fear as a motivator, as something that helps them get in the flow, rather than something that takes them out of the game. We've heard rumors that hockey god Gordie Howe would puke in the locker room before every game. He would be overcome with anxiety, but he learned how to feel the fear and go for it anyway. Our hope is that you too can learn how to transform your fear and use it to your advantage. Let's get real. If there's one thing that generates panic, it's going up to women and talking to them. One of the hardest things to do is to initiate interaction with a woman in a place like a bar or the street when you don't have any excuse to talk to her. Fear hits each man differently. Fear occurs on a spectrum from anticipatory fear, like butterflies in your stomach and slight nervousness, to all-out panic and total terror. We've worked with men on all points of the spectrum. The tools in this section are for men who have mild or small amounts of panic. If you suffer from all-out panic attacks with women, you need to look deeper, perhaps to anti-anxiety medication or therapy. We are not therapists or doctors, and handling panic is not our area of expertise. We can tell you that if you have panic attacks, there is help. We've had many students overcome extreme anxiety with women by combining therapy, medication, and our materials. Here are a few tools for you to learn and practice. The more you can practice them when you're alone in a woman-free environment, the easier it will be to use them when you're about to approach a woman. Breathing. Men are often tense around women and forget to breathe, or when they do breathe, they take shallow breaths. Practice breathing deeply. Deep breathing is the fundamental skill in overcoming panic, because when a person gets tense, the first thing that changes is his breathing. It becomes shallow and increases in speed, and all of a sudden his body shifts into fight or flight mode. When you breathe rapidly and shallowly, your brain is also affected. You think less clearly and enter a spiral that leads to more panic. The trick is to start deep breathing before you get nervous around women, and to continue deep breathing when you approach women. Here's how you do it. Practice breathing slowly and fully into your abdomen. We recommend you breathe in and count to 4, and then breathe out while counting to 4. After a few minutes of breathing deeply, you should be much calmer. Practice this on a daily basis so that you can slow down your breath at will. Visualizing. Start by closing your eyes and breathe deeply for 5 or 10 seconds. Next, imagine a relaxing scene. Maybe you imagine you're in bed or on the beach. Maybe it's your boyhood home or your favorite nature spot. It doesn't really matter. All that matters is that it anchors a feeling of calm, safety, and relaxation. It sounds silly, we realize, but it actually works. Visualizing a calm scene just before you go up and talk to a woman is very useful in getting yourself into a relaxed, playful mode. The cool part is that you can use the same relaxing scene over and over again, which will help you stay calm. You can keep recalling that scene each time you feel nervous. Recalling a time you felt powerful and confident. This will affect your posture and breathing and your overall sense of confidence with women. Start by recalling a time when you really had balls, when you fearlessly went for something and produced an extraordinary result. When you recall a time you felt powerful, you don't have to draw on a situation where you felt powerful with women. It could be a football game, a race you won when you asked for a raise, a great speech you gave, or any moment of victory in your life. It's a way to boost your confidence. It's a way for you to tell yourself, yes, I've got balls, I've done stuff that is amazing, I can do this, no question about it, no doubt. We've all had moments where we've performed beyond what we thought our capabilities were. And you, yes, you have had those moments too. If you take a few seconds to recall a time you were powerful, you'll be a lot more powerful when you approach a woman. Remember those moments and use your past success to fuel your confidence with women today. Stretching. When you feel stressed and tense, your body in turn tenses up. After you have done some deep breathing and visualize success, it's also useful to stretch your body to help it relax. Stand up and take a few minutes to stretch your body from head to toe. Breathe as you do it. The next time you're stressed and want to approach a woman, go into a corner or go outside and stretch for a few minutes, changing your thoughts. If you are like most guys, the moment before you are going to talk to a woman, your thoughts get ugly, real ugly. You think about all your past failures, all the ways in which you suck, all the reasons you're a failure with women. In the face of all that self-flagellation, who can be successful? Train yourself to think about something pleasant, even fun, when you're around women. Think about food, sports, sex, your favorite movie, whatever. When you feel stressed and nervous, thinking about something you enjoy will help perk you up so you can have fun, not taking your thoughts so seriously. We all think crazy stuff sometimes, but just because you have a thought one moment doesn't mean you are going to have it the next. We hear that people who meditate for years and years often comment that they get to a place where they stop taking their thoughts, feelings, and body sensations seriously. They realize that at every moment there are new thoughts and sensations passing through their body, and that's just life. The experience of meditators suggests that we are always in a state of flux. One moment we might be feeling extreme fear, and the next moment the fear will turn into something different. You are always changing, so one way to be relaxed is to think, I'm not going to have this panic thought for more than a minute or two, then it will change. Remind yourself that your thoughts and body sensations are not real and don't need to dictate your behavior. Visualizing someone you trust. You may find it calming to picture someone you trust and imagine them offering you support and encouragement. Think of Ron Lewis and David Copeland. We are on your team. We are here to encourage you. Visualize anybody who has been a supportive figure in your life. Who are the supportive figures in your life now? Who are your best friends? Imagine they are there behind you on your team, encouraging you to go up and talk to that woman you're scared to talk to. You can even imagine that someone like John Travolta, in his role in the movie Get Shorty, a rock star, someone you admire, or a political figure is supporting you. Just imagine they are there behind you saying, come on, you can do it, you can do it. We have total faith in you. This technique works very well in building up your confidence. Taking a walk. Leave wherever you are and walk around the block for a few minutes. While you're out, do some deep breathing and enjoy the fresh air. And while you're walking, think about someone you enjoy being around, or an experience that is pleasant. You may want to walk very briskly to change your internal state and get your blood pumping. Taking a walk can be really useful in changing your internal state, clearing your head, and calming you down enough to approach the woman you really want to approach. We also recommend that you get aerobic exercise at least 3 times a week. Men who tend to have panic and anxiety can greatly decrease their stress level by regularly getting moderate amounts of aerobic exercise, learning Tai Chi or yoga. Learning some Tai Chi, Qi Kung or yoga postures can help you remain calm. Many students have reported that learning Tai Chi or yoga is greatly useful in learning to stay calm. You can pick up books on these types of exercise or take courses. Since Tai Chi, Qi Kung and yoga tend to be meditative, students often find they can use the skills to stay calm in their daily lives, particularly in stressful situations. Drinking heavily. Just kidding. You can try this method, but it will usually backfire. Perhaps you'll calm down, but you might also become a belligerent jerk. You need to gauge how often and how much you drink so that you can feel confident and articulate and think clearly when you're around women. There are a lot of other things that you can do to relax. These are just a few that should be helpful. If there are practices you use to decrease your anxiety, keep doing them. If you hear of other exercises, definitely try them. The point is to find practices you can take on to remain calm and relaxed when you talk to women. Feeling tense and afraid is perfectly normal, but having tools to overcome your fear is what's most important. Practice a few of these moves before approaching women, and your confidence will greatly improve. Panic and anxiety is something that can be controlled. If you suffer from this problem, no matter where you are on the panic spectrum, there is hope. Is it all? It seems you are asking if the corrections are finished for the entire text you provided. Based on your original message, the text appears to be a lengthy book chapter or excerpt spanning many pages. I have corrected only the first portions you sent in the earlier request. To correct the entire text, I would need to process it in sections due to its length. If you'd like me to continue correcting the remaining sections, please let me know and I will proceed step by step until the full text is cleaned up and formatted without mistakes. Continue Excerpt 8, The Phases of Seduction chapter. Knowing what's the first step. As we've said before, there is a step-by-step sequence of events in seducing a woman. As you learn the skills for flirting and talking to women and practice them with women, you'll probably find it helpful to remember the phases of seducing a woman. The first phase of seducing a woman is getting yourself ready. You always need to be getting your mind clear and determining if anything is stopping you. If there's a past rejection stopping you, you must get over it. See the previous 2 chapters. You must get your mind clear, remember and celebrate your past victories, and get yourself into a peak performance state. You must be ready for possible rejection and have handled your panic. Whether you're on a coffee date, about to say hi to a woman, or going for a first kiss, you are always going to be battling yourself and your own frame of mind. That's phase 1. The second phase of seducing a woman is interrupting her and getting her attention. You must initiate with women, and it takes guts to do that. It takes guts to initiate the first kiss. It takes guts to initiate getting her phone number and email address. It takes guts to initiate everything, and that's your job. Never fail to remember that it's your job exclusively. The third phase is the rapport phase, the romance building phase. That is when you are having a connection with somebody in which she feels like you understand her, she feels like she understands you, and you just have a nice conversational flow. The skills in this book will help you accomplish this. The fourth phase introduces a physical connection. She sees you as a potential romantic partner. This involves light sensuality. Finally, the fifth phase is getting into more heavy sexual stuff. You started by getting yourself ready, interrupting her, developing rapport, and making her see you as a romantic possibility. Now you are initiating that next foray into sexual contact. Although this book focuses on talking to women, for more information on dating, you can read How to Succeed with Women and visit our website at www.howtosucceedwithwomen.com. During a typical interaction with a woman, you are going to go through stages 1 through 5 over and over again. You're always going to come back to your state of mind and getting yourself prepped. You're always interrupting her on a deeper and deeper level. But these phases can also happen out of sequence. You are constantly going in as deep as you can go and then backpedaling. You go in and you are holding hands and you stop holding hands, then you go back into the interruption phase. You might be making out and all of a sudden find yourself back in the rapport building phase. A date is unpredictable. You have to let that flow happen. Excerpt 9. General concepts. Flirting. What's the first step? Before we get into the specific talking and flirting skills, there are a few general concepts we should cover. The 3 time frames of an interaction with a woman, leaving her wanting more, and other factors in how you appear to a woman. The 3 time frames of an interaction with a woman. If you are going to succeed in talking to a woman, you need to know just how urgent the situation with her is. Every man has had a wonderful woman walk out of his life forever because he wasn't conscious of how urgent it was to take a risk with her right then. Understanding the 3 time frames of an interaction will help keep that from happening. You only have a few minutes. In this situation, you only have a few minutes, or maybe just a few seconds, to make contact. You are on a train or in a line, and this is your one and only chance. You say hi to her, and it leads to a conversation. You have to get her number or email address right then. If you blow it, she is going to be gone, literally. In this situation, you have to cut to the chase quickly. You have to risk a lot to get her phone number or email address, or it's all over. One of our students told us about being in one of these situations recently while in line at the post office. There was a pretty girl who was also in line who made eye contact with him several times. He said hi and they started to chat, but her turn came up at the counter and she was drawn away. After she finished her business and was leaving, he got out of line and followed her into the lobby. "Excuse me," he said, "but I just got the strong feeling that I ought to say hi to you. I know it seems strange, but I just had this feeling about you. Could I have your email address and perhaps we could get together sometime?" He had a brief window of opportunity and he needed to take a big risk, so he took it. If he hadn't, she would have been out of his life forever. You have a few hours. This is a situation like an all-day seminar, a party, or a work-related activity where you know the woman you are interested in is going to be around for a little while. You don't have to risk it all right away. You can afford to wait, to take small risks with her over a few hours rather than taking a really big risk all at once. You have days, weeks, or longer. This is the waitress you can go back and see over and over, or the woman in your aerobics class who always works out at 5 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can risk much more slowly with these women and build a connection over time. Knowing these 3 time frames helps you know how much you must risk and how quickly you must do so. If you are putting gasoline into your car, and the woman at the next car is attractive and you want to talk to her, then you had better risk a lot right then, because she is about to disappear from your life. On the other hand, if that same woman shows up at an 8-week class you are taking, you don't have to risk big right away by going for her phone number or email address. You can risk big if you want, but you can also take smaller risks and seduce her over time. You can also look at this as a risk spectrum. For instance, you have to take more risk when you ask for the number of a woman you are in line with than you do to get her number when you see a woman twice a week in your aerobics class. Excerpt 10. Leaving her wanting more. It's best to leave a woman wanting more. That means it's better if your conversations with her are short. That's not how most guys flirt with women. With most guys, if an interaction with a woman is going well, they push it and keep talking until something bad happens. Only when there's a problem or bad feeling with the woman do they stop. That means they always manage to end their interactions with women on sour notes. Yeah, but that's bad. These guys think, wow, this is going great. Therefore, I'm not going to try to get her number and close the deal. I'm just going to keep talking. Or they think, oh, wow, this is going great. Therefore, I'm not going to come back and talk to her more later. I'm going to stay here and be amazed that it's going well until she inevitably gets bored. When she gets bored, I will get tense. And then when I get tense, I will mess everything up. And she will finally say, oh, I have to leave. Okay, maybe no guy actually thinks that, but that's how it works out in practice. Unfortunately, you will find a way to blow it during those first interactions if you give it enough time. Therefore, you have to leave while things are going well and leave her wanting more. Your flirting interactions need to be long enough to give her a pleasurable experience and leave her wanting to see you again. If it's going well, don't break the rules. Get out of there on a high note so she's left wanting more of you, not tired of you and wanting less. That is also a way to keep yourself empowered. If you stop your flirting interactions with women while they are still fun, you can be happy about how well it went. It charges you up, and that will keep your ability to seduce alive. Excerpt 11, appearing good to a woman, appearing good to a woman. As you start using the techniques in this book, you'll naturally begin to find yourself in conversations with women. Let's go over a few pointers about sounding and looking good. Breathe more deeply. As we mentioned before, many men breathe into and speak from their upper chests and throats. This gives their voices a nasal sound and it makes them sound tense when they talk to women. Practice breathing from deeper in your body. Breathe more deeply and let your stomach go in and out as you do. Then take a deep breath so you can feel your voice originating from deeper in your body rather than exclusively from your throat and head. This will give your voice more resonance and make it far more attractive to listen to. Adjust your tempo. Over the next day or so, let yourself become aware of the speed at which you talk. Some men talk so quickly that they're exhausting for women to listen to. If you tend to speed rap people, you need to practice slowing down. If you notice yourself talking really quickly, pause and take a deep breath. Sometimes blinking slowly helps. By the same token, we've worked with some men who talk so slowly and ponderously that it's hypnotic and exceptionally boring to listen to them. If you're a man who talks very slowly, you might consider being a little more animated in your speaking. Breathing more deeply will help with this, as will allowing yourself to express more of your excitement when you are talking to people. Practice sounding more excited when you talk with people and see how it feels. Make eye contact. If you are looking all over the place or staring at the floor, you are going to be unattractive to women, while your interaction with a woman should not be a staring contest. Do maintain some eye contact with her. Excerpt 12, the flirting skills. The flirting skills. Now that you have some facility with interrupting women and saying hi, and we've gone over some other fundamentals, we can start teaching you the specific flirting skills. And there are two great things about these flirting skills. First, they fit together really well. Once you understand and start to use these skills, you'll see how you can flow from one to another and really have a romantic, fun, flirtatious, genuine, non-manipulative interaction with a woman. Second, these skills are eminently learnable. You can learn the basics quickly, practice them, review your progress, and get good at them. They aren't magic. You don't have to be a super charismatic man or a naturally gifted hypnotist to use them. These skills, along with the skills for interrupting and initiating with women, will help you create romantic connections with women. There are 5 flirting skills that you will learn from this book. Asking, what's the story behind that? The goodbye introduction. Situational, flirting. Deepening, romantic. Questions and romantic conversations. We'll deal with the first flirting skill right now and cover the others in later chapters. Excerpt 13. What's the story behind that? Asking, what's the story behind that? What's the story behind that is about noticing the details of a woman's appearance and making those details topics of conversation. This is easy to do if you understand women's relationship to details. The world of women is in the details. She works hard on the details of her appearance. Noticing those details and complimenting her on them is extremely seductive, and it's something you can easily learn to do in your conversations with her. Noticing and acknowledging details about a woman separates you from other men. Most men don't see details, or if they do, they don't comment on them. Noticing details sets you apart from the crowd. It makes you more attractive. What's the story behind that is a simple question to ask. after you've said hi and noticed some detail of a woman's presentation. If you've gotten at all good at saying hi, using this skill is easy. What's the story behind that is an excellent question to ask a woman. It's open-ended and it gives her a chance to talk about something that might be important to her. If a woman is wearing an interesting-looking ring or earrings, or if she has an interesting briefcase or pin, basically, if there's anything about her to which she may have paid special attention, you can say, "Oh, that's a very interesting pin," or whatever. "I don't see pins like that every day. What's the story behind that?" Almost every woman has a detail about her about which you could ask, "What's the story behind that?" You might say, "That looks like an interesting book you're reading. What's the story behind that?" Or, "I see you're carrying the Reader magazine. That looks interesting. What's the story behind that?" Or, "I haven't seen a laptop computer like that before. What's the story behind that?" It is a great way to open up almost any conversation. We can hear you saying, but asking what's the story behind that magazine you were reading doesn't make sense. You're right. And that lack of sense is part of the power of the question. It's very open, so she's free to interpret it any way she wants. And that might lead to something interesting. At the worst, she'll ask you, "What do you mean?" And you can ask a follow-up question such as, "What is it about that magazine that you like?" Or, "Are there any articles in it that particularly interested you?" Of course, it's better to notice details about physical appearance that are more meaningful to her than her laptop or the magazine she is carrying, but there may not always be something like that available. If so, it's fine to go for something mundane. On asking what's the story behind that can work really well. For instance, I was talking to this woman in line at a coffee shop. She was right in front of me, so I said hi and she said hi back. I noticed she had on this Indian bracelet with all these markings on it. So I said to her, "Wow, that is a really interesting bracelet that you have on. I haven't seen anything like that before. What's the story behind that?" She said, "Oh, I got this on my trip to India." I followed up. "Oh, wow, a trip to India? That's really interesting. Are you someone who likes to travel?" She said, "Yeah, it was an amazing experience." And we easily got into a conversation about traveling and her trip to India. We'll show you more detailed examples of how to sustain and deepen the conversations that "What's the story behind that?" will start. For now, all you have to worry about is saying hi, noticing a detail, and getting one simple question out of your mouth. "What's the story behind that?" Let me know if you would like me to continue correcting the next sections. Continue excerpt 14, screwing up. What's the story behind that? Screwing up. What's the story behind that? You can screw up any flirting skill, and what's the story behind that is no different. As we mentioned before, what's the story behind that is a very open-ended question. That means it doesn't limit her answer. If you ask, "What's the story behind that necklace?" she can answer by talking about how she got it in India, or how she made it herself, or how it always reminds her of her first dog, or whatever she wants. The question doesn't limit the range of her answer, which is good, but if you ask the question incorrectly, you will limit her possible answers, which is bad. See if you can spot the errors in the following two examples. We once had a coaching client who reported to us that he used, "What's the story behind that?" and it totally didn't work. We asked him to tell us what happened. He said, "Okay, I was in the elevator at work with this woman, and I saw that she had a really interesting pin, so I said to her, 'Oh, that's an interesting pin. Where did you get it?' And she said, 'Oh, I got it at a store.' That was the end of the conversation. It didn't go anywhere at all." Another coaching client saw a woman who was wearing a really interesting scarf. He said to her, "Wow, that's a really interesting scarf you're wearing. Is that a family heirloom?" She gasped and said, "Oh God, I hope not. I hate my family." End of conversation. He didn't get her number or anything else from her. Did you spot the errors? Both of these men asked the question in ways that limited the answers the women could give. The first guy said, That's an interesting pin. Where did you get it? Well, there's a very simple answer to that question. I got it at a store. The question limited the kind of answer she could give. She could only talk about where she obtained it, which was probably boring for both her and the man. On the other hand, saying, "That's an interesting pin. What's the story behind that?" is very open. She can answer with almost anything that interests her. She could say, "I got it in New Zealand," or "I got it at the mall," or "I got it for myself with my Christmas money." It leaves her with an incredibly wide range of possible answers, which makes it easier for you to ask follow-up questions. Do you like to travel? Or what about it made you buy it? In the second example, the man said, "That's a really interesting scarf you're wearing. Is that a family heirloom?" Once again, he limited her possible answers, and in this case, he forced a conversational direction that was upsetting to her. If he had asked, "What's the story behind that?" she could have talked about what she wanted to talk about and things would have worked out much better. There's a great sequence starting to build here. Hi can lead very naturally to "What's the story behind that?" And that leads into the other flirting skills. Excerpt 15, conclusion. Conclusion, "What's the story behind that?" is an immensely powerful flirting question. It gets most women to open up immediately and tell you intimate details about themselves. After they've told you these details, it's harder for them to think of you as a jerk. After all, if you were a jerk, why would they open up so much to you? When you're talking to a woman, be it a sales girl behind a counter or a woman at a party, check to see if she's wearing anything that looks unusual or personal. It might be a pin, a necklace, a piece of clothing, or a bracelet. When you see it, ask her, "What's the story behind that?" It's a powerful conversation starter. Excerpt 16, Romantic Moves, Part 1. Chapter, Romantic Moves, Part 1, Introduction. The second romantic move, romantic questions. We're about to teach you 7 romantic moves, also called flirting moves, to memorize and implement in your life. When you implement these moves while talking to women, your success rate will increase greatly. If you conduct romantic conversations and don't integrate these moves, you'll likely stay stuck in the dreaded friend zone. So it's time to get seductive and learn the romantic moves. The main reason some men get stuck in the friend zone is because they don't know how to show their romantic interest. Other men get stuck in the friend zone because they're afraid of being rejected. Men in both categories can learn the romantic moves, use them without risking their hearts and souls, and finally stop coming across as perpetual friends. If you're like a lot of our students, you've looked at the bad boys who get women and decided you weren't going to be like them. You probably decided that if getting women meant you'd have to lie, manipulate women, or act like a jerk, you would just give up dating. There is good news, however. You don't need to be a jerk to get women, though you can learn some things from the bad boys. The bad boys are willing to show their romantic interest right away and risk rejection. The bad boys are willing to be upfront with their sexual interest. You can learn to be upfront and show your romantic interest to women in ways that allow them to feel appreciated and respected. We'll show you how. When you meet a woman for the first time, it's crucial that she knows you're a romantic possibility. If she sees you as only a friend, it's hard to become her lover. We believe that women decide within 3 minutes of meeting a man if he's a potential lover or not. If you send clear signals that you're only interested in being friends by not doing the romantic moves, you'll blow your chances of something more intimate developing later. Men often think that the romantic moves do not apply. If a woman is extremely attractive, you follow the same rules when dealing with hot women as you do with others. Show your romantic interest right away with all women. It's important for you to familiarize yourself with all of the romantic moves. Find the ones that are toughest for you and keep practicing them until they feel natural. Hopefully, some of them will be easy for you. If so, keep practicing them and refining your skills. After a while, when you're familiar with all 7 moves, you'll find yourself effortlessly integrating them into your flirting and your conversations with women. Excerpt 17. The importance of all 7 moves. Romantic moves. You must learn all 7. You must learn all 7 of the moves and practice them. When unsuccessful seducers find that a few romantic moves are difficult or scary, they give up. Grapple with yourself and overcome any resistance you have to practicing and integrating the romantic moves into your dating life. Another pitfall to which unsuccessful seducers succumb is only using 1 or 2 romantic moves. If you only use 1 or 2 moves when you flirt with women, you will not be successful. You will not send enough clear, strong signals about your interest. When you meet a woman for the first time, you need to do at least 4 of the romantic moves, so you send a clear signal that you are romantically interested. Excerpt 18. The first romantic move. 1. Look into her eyes. Too long. Looking into a woman's eyes, too long, creates a moment of intimacy between you and her. In holding eye contact, you're creating a little moment in which she recognizes that you're romantically interested in her. A friend would avoid eye contact and be more cautious, but you're no longer just a friend. You are stepping into the potential lover category and creating moments of intimacy by making eye contact with her. Here's how to do it. At some point while you're speaking, or during a conversational lull, hold eye contact for just a beat too long, just until it's a little uncomfortable. It's important to remember that this is not a staring contest, just a little moment of intimacy. When Bob the Bad Seducer looks at a woman, he stares too long and too deeply. He tenses up his body, leans in close to her face and stares at her long and hard. The key to looking into a woman's eyes too long is to avoid turning it into a big deal. Look into her eyes for a beat too long, just long enough to create a special moment. If you're a guy who tends to avoid eye contact and stare at the floor, you need to practice looking into women's eyes when you talk. Having a difficult time making and holding eye contact is a very common problem, but there is help. The cure is to start looking women directly in the eye for a few seconds and then walking away. You can develop new skills with women, like talking and maintaining eye contact, by training your nervous system in small doses to do uncomfortable things and experiment with new behaviors. When you practice stretching yourself in new ways, you will eventually become desensitized and feel comfortable being with women. If you're willing to start small and build your confidence slowly over time, you'll eventually overcome your fears and be successful. If you have a hard time looking a woman in the eyes when you talk, start practicing today. Over the next few months, you will feel more confident and comfortable initiating and holding eye contact. Let's go over how to look into a woman's eyes too long. Once again, look into her eyes and hold eye contact just a wee bit too long so you get into the intimacy zone. Practice holding eye contact and practice getting caught looking. Looking into a woman's eyes too long will greatly enhance your seductive presence. Excerpt 19. The second romantic move. 2. Make decisions quickly and easily. Men who are decisive come across as confident, strong, powerful. Indecisive men come across as scared, intimidated, afraid to be themselves. How do you want to come across to women? When you're with a woman, make decisions quickly and easily. If you're on a date and you can sit in one corner of the coffee shop or the other, choose quickly. If you're ordering wine at a bar, decide quickly. If you're selecting a movie to watch, do so quickly. If you're picking a place to meet for a date, pick quickly. When you're out with a woman, she needs to see that you're a decisive man. This doesn't mean you turn into a decision Nazi and never ask for her input. It does mean, however, that when there are times for quick decisions during a date, you act decisively. Excerpt 20. The third romantic move. 3. Wink. Winking is a lost art. Most men don't wink at women. Why are we recommending it? because winking at women is seductive, simple, fun, and intimate. Friends don't wink at each other, potential lovers do. Here's how to do it. Lower one eyelid and then lift it back up. It just takes a second and is very easy. It helps to smile after you wink to make the interaction feel warmer. You can wink at any point in a conversation with a woman. Maybe you're talking to her and you're both laughing about something and you give her a little wink. Maybe you're looking at a woman across a room and you give her a wink. Winking creates a little intimate moment between you and her. The key to success in winking at a woman is to be subtle and make sure the wink is a quick, shared moment between the two of you, not a long, uncomfortable ordeal. Here's how to blow it. If you contort your face and look like an axe murderer while blinking both of your eyes at rapid speed, you will not come across as romantic. If you wink at a woman and then run toward her, you will look like a stalker. If you wink at a woman and then stick out your tongue in an overtly sexual manner, you will come across as a jerk. If you wink at a woman and then stare deeply into her eyes, you will look like a scary guy. If you wink at a woman and look terrified instead of confident, you will come across as a scared, immature boy. We hope you get the point. Winking is a great romantic move because it's not something most men do. It's out of the ordinary. When you wink at a woman, it catches her attention and draws her in. 4. Check out her body. Checking out a woman's body does not mean you stare at her cleavage for hours and hours, even though we all love to see great cleavage. This does not mean you drop some change on the ground and try to look up her skirt while you're picking up the coins that fell in front of her. This means you check out her body in a respectful way. There's a paradox about many women. On the one hand, they're offended when you stare and check out their bodies too long. On the other hand, they work out all the time so they can have great bodies, dress great, and wear push-up bras. Women want you to look at their bodies so they feel appreciated. They just want you to be somewhat subtle so they don't feel completely objectified. Yes, it's a rough line to walk sometimes, but we've got some tips that'll be useful in figuring out this mess. Here's how to do it. Start by looking in her eyes. In less than a second, move your eyes from hers and then sweep down her body. Come back up to her eyes and face, smile and keep on talking like nothing happened. With this method, a woman will see you looking at her body, but because it's so fast and starts and ends with her face, it comes across as respectful. Checking out a woman's body is a good move because it's not something a friend would do. A friend might wait until she wasn't looking and then try to look down her shirt. When you're able to check out a woman quickly, you're letting her know you're romantically interested in her and not a jerk. Here's how to blow it. Get lost in staring at her breasts. Stare at her crotch and lick your lips. Nod your head emphatically up and down. Say, "I am staring at your bodacious tits" when she asks you what you're looking at. Tense up your face and show her the whites of your eyes until you look like you're going into a grand mal seizure. Train yourself to be able to check out a woman in less than a second. You're checking out women all the time anyway, so you might as well start practicing this method. Excerpt 22, the fifth romantic move. 5. Keep your body powerful. Who are some of your seduction heroes in the movies? Is it Will Smith, John Travolta, Billy Bob Thornton, Clint Eastwood, Humphrey Bogart? The name of your screen hero isn't important. The point is that you'll likely be more seductive if you model your behavior and posture on your hero. Men who are seductive hold their body in a powerful way, so when they're standing, sitting, or moving, they come across as both fascinated and fascinating. The way to do this is to pretend that you are fascinated, fascinating, and powerful, and then stand and move in that way. Let's do an experiment. Right now, as you read this book, sit in your chair like you're bored to tears. Now sit up and read this book like you're getting $1 million of value from Lewis and Copeland. What's the difference in your body posture? What's the difference in your attention? How does your body feel? When you are in a state where you are attentive and keeping your body powerful, it will show in your body language and in your presentation. When you're interacting with a woman and keeping your body powerful, you're not distracted. You're paying attention to her, not checking out other women. You're not looking at your watch, reading a newspaper, messing around with your palm-top computer. You're only focused on her. We're not suggesting you have a wild, maniacal look in your eye. Don't stare at her cross-eyed and never blink while talking. Just focus on the woman you're talking to and keep your body powerful. Excerpt 23, the sixth romantic move. 6. Compliment her. When you compliment a woman the way a friend compliments a woman, you say, "Wow, that's a really nice briefcase you have." When you compliment a woman the way a potential lover compliments a woman, you say, "Wow, you are a beautiful woman. You have really beautiful eyes. It's really a pleasure to meet you." In complimenting a woman the way a lover does, you stay away from impersonal compliments. As a potential lover, you want to let her know that you're noticing romantic details about her and you're willing to take risks in talking to her. When you compliment women, you can say things like, "I just got lost in how beautiful you are for a second," or "You have an amazing sense of style," or "Your smile brightens up the whole room." If you're being introduced to a woman by a mutual friend, for instance, you might say, "Oh, so this is the beautiful Jennifer I've heard so much about." When complimenting a woman, be on the lookout for details. When you can see and acknowledge the details that a woman has put a lot of effort into, you come across as a potential lover. As we said, a friend compliments a woman on her briefcase, car, or something impersonal. A potential lover compliments a woman on her earrings, necklace, hair, smile, or something more intimate. Sometimes friends and lovers may notice the same thing about a woman, but they will bring it up in very different ways. A friend might notice a necklace and say, "That's a very nice necklace." A potential lover might say, "Wow, that's a really lovely necklace you're wearing, and it just makes you glow even more." A friend might say, "I like how your belt matches your shoes." A potential lover would say, "I noticed your belt and shoes match." They draw out the color in your eyes and make you look even more beautiful. You'll make mistakes along the way we all do. One of the situations many of our students need to encounter is offending a woman by pushing a compliment too far. That can be a good thing to experience. Flirting with women requires risk. And when you risk with a woman, sometimes you will accidentally offend her. This is part of life. The only way to stay perfectly safe is to remain in the friend zone. If you're willing to take some risks and give a woman some compliments, you'll find out how to push the boundary between friend and lover despite the occasional mistake. As you practice complimenting women, it's important to find your own unique compliment style. Do you feel comfortable complimenting a woman on her smile? What feels too overtly sexual to you? What seems cheesy to you? Get out there and find the style that's best for you. When you do, your confidence and success will increase tremendously. Excerpt 24, the seventh romantic move. 7. Whisper to her. When you whisper to a woman, you create a moment of intimacy between the two of you. It's like the rest of the world is shut out for a second and you're alone together. If you have the opportunity to whisper during a conversation, it's a great move to make. For example, you might whisper to a woman, "I have to confess that you're really beautiful," or "I really am enjoying talking to you." Whispering is a good tool to use to emphasize romantic talk. Here's how to do it. Lean into her and say a few quiet words, then lean out and talk normally. Whispering is a way of drawing in your personal space and making the conversation more intimate. Here's how to blow it. Pretend you're mute or you've had a tracheotomy. Whisper like you're speaking some incomprehensible foreign language. Whisper dozens of times during a date. Once or twice is quite enough. These are fundamental moves to make when you're with women to ensure that you won't come across as a friend. When you use the romantic moves, You'll turn any conversation into a romantic one and show a woman you're romantically interested. If you hold eye contact too long, make decisions quickly and easily, wink at a woman, check out her body, compliment her, keep your body powerful and whisper to her, you will become a seduction machine. Keep track of how many romantic moves you do in your daily life, which are easy and which are difficult. Find the moves that scare you most and try them anyway. The more you practice them, the less intimidating they'll be. If one of the romantic moves is easy for you, refine it by practicing it often. We want you to feel comfortable with these moves while pushing yourself to go outside of your normal comfort zone. These moves are going to bring out the romantic you. Excerpt 25, The Goodbye. Introduction, the goodbye introduction. The goodbye introduction is another way of initiating with a woman, showing your romantic interest and complimenting her on a deep level. It's risky in that you are going out of your way and showing romantic interest directly. At the same time, it's low risk in that it addresses her fears, so it is not threatening to her. It's also quick, and it gives you an easy exit if the interaction doesn't go the way you'd hoped. Excerpt 26, When to use the goodbye introduction. When to use the goodbye introduction. When you haven't had a chance to say hi. The goodbye introduction is a great thing to use with women you haven't had a chance to say hi to. She may be across the bar or working out at your gym, or a waitress who didn't serve your table, or any woman you see and want to approach, but the natural flow of things hasn't thrown the two of you together when you are leaving anyway. The goodbye introduction is a great last thing to do in many social situations. The goodbye introduction can be a fun, exciting way to connect with a hot woman when you're leaving a bar, restaurant, store, or wherever you may be. When you want to interact with a woman who intimidates you. The goodbye introduction is designed to be over quickly. It doesn't put you in a situation where you are faced with a woman without having any idea what to say or do. It's simple, easy, to the point, and fast. When you want to build your self-esteem with women, when you're feeling too intimidated to try to have a long conversation with a hot woman, the goodbye introduction might be exactly what you need. It's not designed to get you her number or email address, though you can use it for that. It's designed to get you into the game of seduction on a much deeper level than simply saying hi. Excerpt 27. How to do the goodbye introduction. How to do the goodbye introduction. Imagine you're at the gym and you see a woman who's really attractive, but she's busy lifting weights, and it seems like your gym isn't such a friendly place anyway. Here's what you do. Leave the gym when she is between sets or stretching. Then, on your way out, introduce yourself like this. Smile while you do it. Hi, I'm just leaving, and I only have a second here, but before I go, I really wanted to introduce myself to the woman who has such wonderful form. My name is Ron. She'll say something back like, oh hi, my name is Mandy. Then you say, I've got to go, but I hope to see you here again. Then you leave. This simple interaction creates an opening for you to talk to her next time you see her. Hi Mandy, how are you? It also gives you a way of interacting with her for the first time without there being much risk for either of you. Because you tell her right away that you are leaving, she's less likely to be afraid of you wasting a lot of her time. It also builds your esteem and teaches your nervous system that you can actually survive talking to beautiful women, which makes it more likely that you'll do it again in the future. Excerpt 28. The 4 parts of the goodbye introduction. The 4 parts of the goodbye introduction. The goodbye introduction has 4 parts, and they're all important. 1. Tell her you're leaving. You tell her you are leaving by saying something like, I have to go now, or I've got to run, my friends are waiting for me outside. This is a very important step. Most of the time, women you don't know well are going to ask themselves some combination of three things when you first interrupt them or take a conversation into deeper, riskier territory. These questions are about her safety. They are, what is he going to do to me? How long will it take? And why is he saying this to me? This is why when you do the goodbye introduction, your first words are, I have to leave. Saying that you have to leave makes it easier for her to listen to you because it answers two of her most pressing questions. She knows the interaction won't take long, and since it won't take long, there's less bad stuff that you'll have time to do to her. Addressing those safety questions is important, and saying, I have to leave, or some variation thereof, handles that nicely. It's important to know that you can't just answer her safety questions explicitly through some sort of direct, dignified conversation, which men sometimes try to do. Men who try to allay women's fears directly almost always fail. They end up saying something like, I'm not a stalker or anything, I wanted to meet you, or don't be afraid, I just wanted to say hi. These never work because saying these things is so incredibly suspicious that they steer a woman back into her safety questions. She'll instantly ask herself, why is he telling me he's not a stalker? Is it because he is one? What's he going to do to me? How long will it take? She ends up terrified, and the conversation goes nowhere good. Saying, I have to go, Bichay, on the other hand, isn't at all suspicious and answers her safety questions well enough for her to relax at least a little. This allows her to be more open and receptive to what you say next when you 2. Tell her you couldn't leave without complimenting her. You simply say, but I just couldn't leave without introducing myself to the woman who... 3. Compliment her. The compliment itself will depend on the situation you are in. What is it about her that you're admiring? Are you admiring her style, her posture, her radiance, her smile? Whatever it is, you compliment it. This is within reason, of course. If you're admiring a woman's breasts, for instance, we shouldn't have to tell you that saying, I couldn't leave without introducing myself to the woman who's got one hell of a rack is not going to sound very seductive. Find something to admire about her that she'll see as a compliment and give it to her. Say something like, the woman who is so incredibly radiant, or who has such a beautiful smile. 4. Introduce yourself. This part is simple. Simply state your name. She'll probably respond by telling you her name and being friendly. After all, what does she have to lose if you're about to leave anyway? From there, you can either make some chit-chat, which we'll talk about soon, or leave, your self-esteem increased by having taken a risk and having had a real, romantic interaction with an attractive woman. The goodbye. Introduction doesn't usually get you a date right away. What it does do is make you into the kind of guy who approaches women directly and romantically, and a big part of becoming a seducer is becoming that kind of guy. At this point in the seduction skill building, the point is not to get her in bed. The point is to get you to be the kind of guy who can do this sort of thing. The goodbye introduction builds that aggressive, seductive muscle, which is what will help you succeed with women. Furthermore, if you use the goodbye introduction at a gym bar or any place, you might see the woman again. You now have an opening with her. You've complimented her. You've introduced yourself to her as a powerful man, and you know her name. Next time you see her, you can say hi and use your other flirting skills with her. Let me know if you'd like me to continue with more sections. Continue excerpt 29, using the goodbye introduction to get contact information. Using the goodbye introduction to get her phone number or email address. You can use the goodbye introduction to get a woman's phone number or email address. If you say, I was just leaving and I really have to go, but I just had to stop and say hello to the woman who is so beautiful. Hi, my name is David. She might say, hi, my name is Sarah. And from there, you can say pretty much anything. If you're at the gym, for instance, you can ask her how she likes the gym or how often she works out. You can ask, what's the story behind that? Or use any of the other flirting skills. When you are ready, you leave, and we suggest you do this while the conversation is still fun. First, say to her, I really have to go, but you seem like an interesting person, and I would really like to know you a little better. What would it be like if we got together sometime? Can I have your email address or phone number? If she says yes, great. Take her info and be gone. If she says no, well, you have to leave anyway. Say, well, it's been nice to meet you, and go. Excerpt 30, examples of the goodbye. Introduction, examples of the goodbye introduction. As you can see, the goodbye introduction is really very simple. You approach her, tell her you're leaving, tell her you couldn't leave without complimenting her. Compliment her. Introduce yourself and either leave or stay and take the conversation further. Here are some examples. Hi, I'm just leaving now, but before I went, I had to come up and tell you that you have such a beautiful smile. It lights up the whole room. I just had to let you know that before I left. By the way, my name is Ron. Hi, I have to go. My friends are waiting for me outside. But before I left, I had to come up and tell you that you look incredibly beautiful. By the way, my name is Donald. Hi, I've got to run right now, but before I do, I just had to take the risk of coming up and telling you that you have such a beautiful smile. By the way, my name is David. Hi, I'm just on my way out and only have a second, but before I went, I just had to come up and tell you that you have an amazing sense of style. I wish I had the time to stay and seduce you, but I really have to go. By the way, my name is Ron. Excerpt 31, Common Mistakes with the Goodbye Introduction. Common Goodbye Introduction. Mistakes, skipping the first part. The most common error men make with this is skipping the first part of the goodbye introduction. They start talking to a woman, but they don't tell her, I'm about to leave, so I only have a moment to talk to you. This leaves her not knowing what you are going to do to her or how long it will take and sends her right back into her safety questions. She thinks, oh my God, what is he going to do and how long is this going to take? You've got to tell her you only have a moment and will be leaving, even if the contact stretches out into a much longer conversation. Not really complimenting her. If you're used to being just friends with women, it can be very hard to compliment them on something romantic or sensual. You might be afraid to let a woman know that you think she is beautiful. You might be embarrassed or worry that your compliment might hurt her in some way. You might worry that everyone will know what you said to her and will laugh at you. When you let these fears run you, you're likely to give a tepid compliment like, you have a really nice briefcase, or those are nice shoes. Such mild compliments don't show your romantic interest and don't show that you're the kind of guy who's willing to take some risk with women. You're likely to come across as too mild, and that's not good, not feeling good about doing it. Having said that, if you're very shy, giving a mild compliment, that's a very nice pin you're wearing, might be all you can do at first. If so, do it and celebrate that you did it. If you're shy, that may be a big step. Don't expect it to blow her away because it won't, but it may give you the confidence you need to give a bigger compliment next time, and that's all that really matters. We had one student who would do the goodbye introduction and hated every minute of it. If women didn't drop to their knees to give him oral sex right then, he felt like a complete failure. This made him seem grave, heavy, and even scary to women, so he never got the result he was looking for. You have to let yourself feel good about what you do. Doing a goodbye introduction is a big step, and no matter how it turns out, you should feel good about it. Not practicing out loud. Practice possible. Goodbye. Introductions out loud. This is crucial. There's a huge difference between reading the examples in this book and actually speaking them out loud. We recommend that you memorize 1 or 2 of these and practice them 10 or 20 times out loud. You have to get used to having these words come out of your mouth so that when you're in front of a woman, you can just open your mouth and the right words will come out. Being unwilling to work your way up. You don't need to go for the hottest women in the world and do this seemingly massive thing if it's too terrifying. You may want to practice this at first with a woman whom you aren't massively attracted to just to get the experience, waiting for it not to feel risky or scary. It's worth knowing that the first few times you do the goodbye introduction will be very scary for you. You'll be afraid that something terrible will happen, or that she'll be incredibly upset by it, or that she'll laugh at you, or that everyone will know what you did and you'll be a complete and utter fool in everyone's eyes. After you've done it a few times, you'll know that it's really not that big a deal and it'll get much easier to do. The problem is you have to go through those first few scary times to get to that point. If you wait for it not to feel risky before you try, you'll never try. Even after you've learned that you can do the goodbye introduction without being instantly struck down by lightning, there will still be a scary moment every time you do it, right before you open your mouth to talk. That's the moment of commitment, the moment the skydiver experiences right as he's about to jump out of the airplane. You can't wait for the fear to go away before you do it. You just have to jump. Open your mouth and say the goodbye introduction. Excerpt 32, Conclusion on romantic moves and the goodbye introduction. Conclusion. Many men are afraid to do the romantic, flirting moves or the goodbye introduction. But when we talk to women, they tell us that hearing a goodbye introduction or experiencing some romantic moves with a man often makes their entire day. It's a nice thing to do. Contrary to what you may believe, you can be a sweet guy and really make a woman's day by flirting with her and showing romantic interest. Don't deprive women of this fun, feel-good experience. Excerpt 33, Situational Flirting Introduction. Chapter Situational Flirting. What is situational flirting? You've probably seen men who are really good at joking around and kidding with women. Perhaps you've even had moments where you were that guy. Men who are good at kidding around with women and who can make that kidding romantic are practicing situational flirting. Situational flirting involves 2 key skills: creative misinterpretation and asking outrageous questions. Creative misinterpretation happens when you take some detail in the environment that you and the woman are in and act as though that item is dramatically different than it is. You then ask an outrageous question about that misinterpretation. You will learn how to do this in this chapter. For instance, you may be interacting with a woman who has a camera. You may make the creative misinterpretation that her camera can steal souls and then ask the outrageous question, "Oh, I see you have a camera. It's not going to steal my soul, is it?" This joke is an opening for her to joke back with you. Many women will respond humorously, saying something like, "No, this isn't my soul-stealing camera. I left that one at home." At the very least, most women will smile and laugh. As the playful interaction progresses, you can add, "I think your beauty has stolen my soul already." Then you're really in the realm of effective situational flirting. Situational flirting comes down to finding something in the environment that you can creatively misinterpret and make a joke about or ask an outrageous question about. If you can do that, you can practice situational flirting. Excerpt 34. Why practice situational flirting? Why practice situational flirting? You need to practice situational flirting to solve some of the early problems that show up in any interaction with a woman you've just met. How are you going to make a light, enjoyable connection? How are you going to build that initial state of rapport And how are you going to do it in a way that is fun and enjoyable for both of you? Look at it from her point of view. She's worried that you're a creep. You need to create an enjoyable, memorable experience together that shows her you're a trustworthy, fun guy who she might want to spend time with. Situational flirting works well on all these problems. It's fun, light, pleasant, enjoyable, and energizing for you, both. It creates a shared reality between you, a fantasy world that the two of you can revisit on future occasions. More on this later. And it makes her look forward to seeing you again. Excerpt 35. Key Principles of Situational Flirting. The key principles of situational flirting. Remember that dating is a numbers game. As you begin to practice situational flirting, it's a good idea to remember our old adage, dating is a numbers game. Situational flirting is not going to work 100% of the time. Nothing does. Situational flirting is not a quick fix kind of thing. Not all women are going to be receptive to humor. Some will get scared and stay scared. To a certain extent, it's a crapshoot. When you begin situational flirting with real-world women, just remember that dating is a numbers game. Women look to you for certainty that things are okay. When you're practicing situational flirting with a woman, you must provide a sense of certainty for her that what you're doing is okay, that there isn't any problem with you joking around with her or with her joking around with you. Some women might be a little bit scared at first when you start doing situational flirting because you are definitely interrupting them on a deeper level and asking them to join you in a humorous, playful, pretend reality. They are going to be looking at you, your behavior, and your level of confidence and comfort to figure out whether or not there's a problem. If you seem incredibly nervous and come across as if you are thinking, oh my God, is this going to work? I'm doing a horrible thing. I'm being weird. I sure hope this doesn't wreck her day. I'm a bad guy. It will make it more likely that she will get upset if you seem to be thinking, great, I'm making this joke and she is going to look to me. And if I am okay with it, she'll probably be okay with it too. She will more likely be fine with it. Ultimately, if you make a situational flirting joke and she has a problem with it, remember, it's a numbers game and her problems are hers. So what else can you do? Use your body. Using your body involves smiling, making eye contact with, and putting energy and vitality into your voice. If you're frowning, scowling, looking at the floor, or mumbling, it's going to be hard for you to get situational flirting to work for you. Smile, breathe, look at her, and give it your best shot. Practice, practice, practice. Situational flirting is complicated enough that you probably won't master it overnight. If you're used to trying to control conversations with women, and most unsuccessful seducers are, it may take some practice before you get used to letting go of controlling the conversational outcomes and making creative misinterpretations and asking outrageous questions. To succeed at situational flirting, you need to be in the flow of the moment, not trying to control where the interaction might take the two of you. It's risky and will take time to get used to, so give yourself 10 or 20 tries at this before expecting it to feel natural. Be ready for a variety of responses. When we started practicing situational flirting, sometimes we ended up with women staring at us like they were really scared. It almost never happens now, because the more we practice this flirting skill, the more we trust it, and the more we can project that trust and relaxation to the women we're flirting with. Be prepared to provide both sides of the flirting interaction. Most women will be able to joke back with you, some won't. Remember when we joked about a woman's camera stealing your soul? Well, what if she didn't have any comeback at all? If so, you'd provide the comeback, something like the one you had hoped she would use. You might say, wait, that's not your soul-stealing camera. You must have left it at home. She can laugh at this and you'll take her off the hook for having to be clever in order to enjoy being with you. Remember your situational flirting question. When you want to practice situational flirting with a woman, look around the environment you are in and ask yourself, what is there in this situation about which I can ask some sort of outrageous or silly question? What can I creatively misinterpret in this situation that might be funny? The answer to that question will guide you in your situational flirting. You'll see how we use that question in the examples below. Excerpt 36. Examples of situational flirting. Examples of situational flirting. We're going to give you examples of situational flirting. Please note this. These examples are going to seem silly because they are silly. You're being silly when you look at something in the environment and say something silly about it or make an outrageous joke about it. We've used all of the jokes below in real life ourselves, and they've all gone quite well. So don't worry if these seem weird on printed page. Also remember that these examples are not prescriptions. We are not suggesting you do these exact situational flirting conversations. These examples are to get your mind thinking in this mode, so you can come up with your own, be flexible, and have the flirting interaction really work. David: I was recently in St. Louis and I was buying a ticket to go up in the St. Louis Arch. There was a really pretty girl selling the tickets. So I was asking myself the main question you should ask yourself for situational flirting. What is there in this situation about which I can ask some sort of outrageous or silly question? What can I creatively misinterpret in this situation that might be funny? So I smiled and asked her, do you and your friends get to go up there and party after hours in the Arch? Does it get to be your playground? She said, oh yeah, we do have parties up there sometimes. You can rent it out, you know. She was nice but wasn't into the joking mood yet. So I smiled and asked her, is it a place where you get to go a lot? Could you and me go up there sometime? And she laughed and said, well, I think you should try it out with a ticket first. It was a successful flirting interaction. David took something in the environment, the Arch itself, put an outrageous spin or interpretation on it. Is this your personal playground? And got a laugh. To that woman, he was funny and fun to be around, and he gave her a brief, pleasurable experience. He showed her in some small way that she was special, not just an automaton dispensing tickets. Excerpt 37. More situational flirting examples. More examples of situational flirting. David, here's another example. I was at the Gap buying clothes. I don't know if you've noticed, but all the employees at the Gap wear radio headsets. I don't know if they can talk on the phone or page each other or what, but it struck me as odd. So I asked myself, what is there in this situation about which I can ask some sort of outrageous or silly question? What can I creatively misinterpret in this situation that might be funny? And of course the headset stood out. So I asked the headset-wearing girl who was ringing me out, can you launch the space shuttle with that? It wasn't very funny, but she thought it was funny enough to laugh about it. I continued, oh, I know what they're doing with that headset. They are feeding you pro-Gap propaganda each and every moment, aren't they? And she laughed and said, oh no, I love the Gap. And I said, oh, so it's working. They've programmed you to love the Gap. And she laughed more, and there we were, having a fun interaction together. So the next time I come into the store, I can do the same thing again. I can come in and smile and say, oh, so they're still feeding you that pro-Gap propaganda through your headset, right? Are you still pro-Gap? It's become a running joke, and she and I have that little shared reality together that is different from our ordinary lives and is something that gives her pleasure. It makes it pleasurable for her to see me, and she knows that I am someone she can play with. This is the kind of thing that fits in with all the flirting tools in this book. Ron: I was grocery shopping the other day, and there was a woman in the alcohol section who was pretty hot. I asked myself the question, what is there in this situation about which I can ask some sort of outrageous or silly question? What can I creatively misinterpret in this situation that might be funny? I thought about a misinterpretation. What if she was an undercover cop looking to arrest underage kids for trying to buy alcohol? So I smiled and asked her, "So what are you doing? Are you scouting for all the underage people who are trying to buy beer? You're not going to bust me, are you?" She laughed and looked back. "I don't know you." Don't look too young. I held out my wrists for her imaginary handcuffs and said, "You could bust me if you want." And we laughed together. It may look stupid when you read it here, but she was loving it. So I took the next step. I said, "My name is Ron. What's your name?" It led to something. I could have gone for her email address or phone number. If I see her again, I already have a connection with her, so it will be easy to build upon it. We have a fun, imaginary world between us now. She knows she can be silly with me. Let me know if you'd like me to continue with more examples of situational flirting. Continue excerpt 38, more situational flirting. Examples continued. David. You have probably noticed that very pretty girls often work at bookstores. I was at one such bookstore and I saw a pretty girl who worked there just sort of hanging out behind the information counter. I asked myself the question, what is there in this situation about which I can ask some sort of outrageous or silly question? What can I creatively misinterpret in this situation that might be funny? So I went up to her with the book I was holding, smiled at her and said, "This book looks pretty good. Have you read it? Can you review it for me?" She said she hadn't read it. So I said, smiling and pretending to be shocked, "What? You haven't read all the books in the bookstore? I thought you knew all of the books. You look so knowledgeable there behind the information counter." And she laughed and said, "Nope, not me. Though I do like to read, I haven't gotten to all the books yet. I'm still not even done with the literature section, and they keep adding to it." Ron, there's a lot of stuff you can do in a bookstore. I had an experience once when I was in a bookstore, and I saw a woman looking at books about UFOs. I asked myself, what is there in this situation about which I can ask some sort of outrageous or silly question? What can I creatively misinterpret in this situation that might be funny? Here's what I did. Smiling, I held up a book and asked, "Were you abducted by a UFO? I was abducted once. What do you think? Let's share some abduction stories." It sounds stupid, but she was laughing. It put her at ease. In that situation, you might also misinterpret a woman to be an alien and say, "Wow, so are you a beautiful alien here to abduct people for tests? I'll bet that you are. Are you going to take me?" It makes a joke, compliments her, and shows your romantic interest. It's going to be hard for her to stuff you into the just friends category after you confidently told her she was beautiful during your first interaction with each other. David, here's another example. I went into the bank and there was a girl behind the counter, and we were doing some banking transaction, a typical banking experience. I asked myself the question, what is there in this situation about which I can ask some sort of outrageous or silly question? What can I creatively misinterpret in this situation that might be funny? And here's what I said. "So, do you get a percentage of the money that comes in, like a gratuity?" And she laughed and says, "Oh, that's so funny, I wish I could." Then I took our little shared fantasy one step further. "Oh, but then you would have to pay a percentage of what goes out too. That would be bad." She laughed and said, "Oh no, I wouldn't like that part. I'd just keep the money when it comes in." I smiled and said, "Oh, that would be perfect for you. I can see it now. You get to keep the money because you do such a great job." She said, "Yeah, that would be perfect. Here's your money. Have a great day." Next time she sees me, she'll be ready to have another fun interaction with me. Here's another example. I was at the bank around Christmas time, and as I went up to the teller, I noticed that right by her window there was a glass jar full of Tootsie Rolls with a bow around it. I looked at that candy and asked myself the question, what is there in this situation about which I can ask some sort of outrageous or silly question? What can I creatively misinterpret in this situation that might be funny? So I smiled and said, "A jar of Tootsie Rolls, is this for me?" She said, "Well, it depends. Have you been good this year?" And I thought, great, she's playing along. That's wonderful. I said, "I think I've been pretty good, but in some ways I've been pretty bad too." She laughed and I said, "I don't know, I might need some correction as well as some rewards. Do you think you would be able to do that?" She laughed. I went on with my transaction, and I left having had a successful situational flirting interaction. Notice how these flirting interactions happen with women you see every day in places you go on a regular basis. The bank, the grocery store, bookstores, and so on. Using this tool, you can use these places to meet and connect with women. Excerpt 39, even more situational flirting examples. Aaron, there is one woman at my bank who I am working on. I am getting closer to asking her out by flirting with her on a regular basis. So every time I go in there, I continue a running joke, situational flirting move. I started with her weeks ago. She is just a bank teller, but I always kid her about becoming bank president. I say, "Okay, Lisa, when are they going to make you president of the bank? It's about time. I know you have been doing this work only so you can infiltrate the bank, and I know that pretty soon you are going to be the president. In fact, I am going to be your assistant." It is just this far-out story that I keep sustaining and that we build upon every time I see her. I'll say things like, "When you are the president, I will come and I will shovel the snow off your car and we'll hang out. You'll do personal loans to me, and together we'll make a killing in interest rates." It's easy to keep it going, and she loves it. In her day-to-day life, she probably feels like the lowest rung on the ladder, which she is. And here is a guy who actually can see her, not only for what she is, but in a far-out, flattering way. So that has gone really well for me. David. Restaurants are another great place to practice situational flirting. For instance, not too long ago, I was in a bakery where they had a giveaway going. You dropped your business card in this fish bowl, and if they picked it out, you won a year's worth of free bread. There was a cute girl behind the counter next to the fish bowl. I asked myself the question, what is there in this situation about which I can ask some sort of outrageous or silly question? What can I creatively misinterpret in this situation that might be funny? I said to her, "So you're going to give me a year's worth of free bread, huh?" She said, "Sure, if you win." I said, "Let me picture this now. You're going to pull up in a gigantic truck and dump a year's worth of bread on my lawn?" She laughed at the image and said, No, I won't be doing it." I said, "Oh, so somebody else will be dumping the bread on my lawn, and you will be like the figure in the background who makes it happen, but doesn't really come to deliver it herself." She laughed and said, No, the bread will come once a week." And so I created that humorous interaction with a woman by asking myself what I could creatively misinterpret into an outrageous, funny question. Ron, here's another example from a coffee shop. I was sitting in a coffee shop reading the book You Just Don't Understand. It's about men's and women's relationship and communication issues. I'm sitting there reading this book, and it is boring me, so I started asking the woman sitting at the next table what she thought about all of these examples. I'd ask her things like, "It says women feel like men try to fix them instead of listening. Do you think that's true? Has that been true for you?" It turned out to be an hour-long conversation, and I got her number and email and ended up dating her. That all came out of asking her a silly question from the book, eliciting her opinion and talking. Then, all of a sudden, we were connected. In this example, Ron didn't even misinterpret anything. He was simply willing to take what was in the environment and amplify it a little. He was asking himself if the examples in the book he was reading were true. Then he took his curiosity and asked the woman at the next table. In a way, that's what all of this is about. When you do situational flirting, you take what is in the environment and make it a little bigger, a little more fanciful, until it becomes a little world in which you and a woman can enter together. You can learn to do this with practice. Excerpt 40, Final Situational Flirting Examples and Conclusion. Your situational flirting can be truly outrageous. Just keep asking yourself, what is there in this situation about which I can ask some sort of outrageous or silly question? What can I creatively misinterpret in this situation that might be funny? The opportunities really are everywhere. For instance, if you're drinking a cup of coffee with a woman, you could look at the grounds in the bottom of the cup and say something like, I heard that some people can tell your fortune by looking at your coffee grounds. It's sort of like astrology. People do it in Turkey. Would you like me to read your fortune? Would you read mine? If you're drinking tea, you can ask, would you read my tea leaves for me? I want to find out about love. She will laugh, and that is a funny, romantic thing. This doesn't even have to be a big deal. When you're leaving a restaurant and your pretty waitress asks you, do you want your receipt? You can say, well, yes, I am going to take this as a memento of our time together. I'll keep it forever. If you smile while you do it, there's a good chance she'll laugh, and you'll have had a situational flirting interaction. Situational flirting is not necessarily about getting her phone number or email address right then and there, although you can certainly use it to get her number. It is more about being a guy who knows how to flirt. Because flirting, combined with saying hi, combined with asking, what's the story behind that? It combined with the romantic questions, combined with giving risks, combined with everything else in this book, is what not only gets you a date, but gets you a date with a woman who has been primed and tested, and who is more than likely ready to be romantic or even sexual with you well before the date even happens. David. Here's another example of situational flirting. This is at a dentist's office. I was getting my teeth cleaned, and if that's something you haven't done in 6 months or so, you should probably call up your dentist and make an appointment. The receptionist was a very pretty girl. As she was checking me in, I asked her, are you the guardian of this bad, evil place? She said, oh yeah, I'm the guardian, all right. I said, well, can you put a spell on me, oh guardian, so the work on my teeth won't hurt? She said, well, I don't know. So I said, okay, how about you put a spell on me so that the teeth cleaning won't hurt? She giggled and said, okay, I'll put a spell on you, but I think you will still want to try the Novocaine. So I came back with, well, I don't know. I am pretty bewitched by you already, but okay. We had this wonderful playing conversation about how she had this magical power, and it was fun for us both. Ron, I can think of one example of situational flirting that David and I did together every time we saw a certain woman at our local co-op grocery store. She was kind of punky looking and would wear army fatigues most of the time, so we nicknamed her the General, and every time we went there we would salute her. Hello, General. How are you today? What are our orders? She would just crack up. We had a running joke about her being an army spy. We'd ask her, are you here spying, or are you here for some covert operation? And she would say, yep, I'm here spying. We'd say something like, so you're here to see what is going on in this store in case you have to make a tactical move, right? And she'd say something like, I'd tell you, but I'd have to kill you. It was really fun, and when we'd come in, her eyes would light up, and she would really look forward to talking to us. Here's another example. We were in New York City on a beautiful spring day, once doing some promotion for one of our books, and we were walking down the street, and these 3 beautiful women came out of this nail spa, and they had just had their nails done, and they were admiring them. And I said to them, "Oh, it's the beautiful nail women. You must be here to show the world your beautiful nails. Can we see?" They were thrilled to show us their new nails. We told them how beautiful they looked and how beautiful their nails looked, and they were laughing and giggling. We joked about how they must be getting ready to be in an international nail contest, and they thought it was great. It was really fun for us too. Here are some places where you can try out your situational flirting skills today: the health club, the mall, the bank or credit union, the coffee shop, the video store, the subway, or train, a bar, a restaurant, a bookstore, a shop, a line, anywhere else you find yourself. Basically, anywhere you encounter a woman, you should be asking yourself, what is there in this situation about which I can ask some sort of outrageous or silly question? What can I creatively misinterpret in this situation that might be funny? Excerpt 41, conclusion on situational flirting. Conclusion. Situational flirting accomplishes a number of worthy goals. When you practice situational flirting with a woman, you show that you're not just a friend because you're playing with her in a way that a lowly male friend never would. You're interrupting her at a deeper level and injecting yourself into her consciousness. And this shows her that you're the kind of guy who can go after what he wants and can make things happen. You provide pleasure for the woman. You create a little make-believe world together, which is a welcome relief from the difficulty and tedium of her normal life. Situational flirting also brings out a playful part of yourself, which is sexy to women. Remember, silliness and sexiness have a close relationship. When you flirt and are silly with a woman and provide her with reassurance that things are okay, you become sexier to her. Finally, you provide a fun experience for yourself. When you have fun with a woman, you leave the interaction charged up with higher self-esteem and more energy than when you started. As you get better and better at situational flirting, you'll find that it creates a self-reinforcing cycle. The more you practice it with women, the more energy you have, and the more you want to do it with women. And that's good. Let me know if you'd like me to continue with the next chapter, which covers deepening. Continue excerpt 42, Deepening, Introduction. Chapter Deepening. We're now going to take flirting to the next level with a process called deepening. Deepening is a way of taking anything a woman says to you and turning it into a bonding conversation. Deepening is about having an intimate talk and developing rapport. This is part of a series of steps that leads to asking a woman out and getting the date. Hi leads to asking, what's the story behind that? Which can lead to deepening. Deepening then moves into romantic conversations and asking for the number. When you feel comfortable with this progression and have some experience trying it out on women, you'll quickly become a pro. What exactly is deepening? Deepening is a conversational mode that allows you to get into a woman's world and find out what she's passionate about. Deepening is a way for you to acknowledge and help her acknowledge what she cares about. Deepening is powerful because most women aren't used to being recognized in ways that feel romantic. Most women don't see themselves as special and aren't used to other people seeing them as special. When you're able to see the passionate and special parts of a woman and feed it back to her, she'll feel a bond with you. With deepening, you can develop a connection with a woman without bombarding her. Excerpt 43, the two components of deepening. The two components of deepening. You ask a woman questions about her passions and interests. Based on what she tells you, you describe her passions and interests for her so she feels acknowledged and sees the details of her life in a new and positive way. Excerpt 44. The 5 basic rules of deepening. The 5 basic rules of deepening focus on what a woman is passionate about. The purpose of deepening is to look for areas in a woman's life where she feels passion and feed it back to her. You are validating aspects of her life that most people do not see or acknowledge, and when you show a woman that she's special, she will feel appreciative and bond with you. Pay attention to details. Pay attention to the details of what the woman is saying and look for ways to feed back those details to her in a romantic way. Avoid the deepening trap. When you are asking a woman deepening questions, sometimes she'll mention negative aspects of her life. It's important to avoid topics that she is upset about. When bad things come up, redirect the conversation to what is working in her life and what she's most interested in. Always include the romantic moves. To ensure that you come across as a romantic possibility, you need to use the romantic moves. If you hold eye contact too long, make decisions quickly and easily, wink at a woman, check out her body, compliment her, keep your body powerful and whisper to her, your chances of having a successful, deepening conversation are greatly increased. This is only a test. When you conduct a deepening conversation, you are testing to see if a woman might be someone you want to go out with. You are testing to see if she likes you and if you like her. Eventually, you'll either talk about topics she's passionate about, or you should probably end the conversation and move on to someone else. Be on the lookout for openings to ask for a date, phone number, or email address. Watch for chances to ask for these things. The goal of deepening is for women to have positive experiences with you, have them expose parts of themselves to you that they rarely expose to anyone else, and then have them feel enough safety and rapport to go out with you. Excerpt 45, Deepening Conversation. Deepening conversation. David, here's a recent example of a deepening conversation I had at a party. I was talking to a woman and asked her a simple question. David: so what do you do for a living? Cassie: I'm a social worker. David: wow, that's really interesting. You must see all sorts of things in a job like that. Cassie: yes, I do. David: where do you work? Cassie: I work down at the hospital. David: let me ask you a question. In every job there are aspects that you dislike and moments when you feel like you really don't like what you are doing, but then there are moments when you feel like you really are doing what you were put on earth to do. I would be curious to know if you would care to share. What are some of those moments for you? Cassie: well, I help the families of children who are getting organ transplants. I do all the coordinating and I also deal with all of their emotions. David: that's really incredible. Cassie: yes, it's an amazing job. And there are times when I am working with families and I really do feel like you said, like I am doing what I was put on earth here to do. I get the surgery and the organs coordinated. I get the kids ready and I get the families ready, and it is like I become a member of their family for a while. David: wow, that is really incredible. You must really be a woman who values making a difference in people's lives. Cassie: I really do. That is what I really love about my job. David: I don't get to see that kind of a thing in a woman every day. I really appreciate seeing that in you. It's really inspiring to me. Cassie: wow, that is really great that you see that too. Ron: let's talk about this example. You got her talking about what she is most passionate about, and then you reflected it back to her, which is how deepening works. It's a good example of starting with a simple question and having the conversation become more intimate and personal. From there, David could have built up to asking for her phone number or asking for the date. David: in this deepening conversation, I was able to get a lot of information from her. She seemed very interested in talking to me and gave lengthy answers to each of my questions. Excerpt 46, Deepening Conversation. 2. Deepening Conversation. 2. At a business class. David: what do you do? Sophie: I'm an accountant. David: I find accounting interesting. In my business, I've been studying some accounting lately. It must really feel amazing when you're able to line up all those numbers and all those columns. Must feel incredible when you have everything balanced and everything is perfectly in order. Sophie: Yes, that's exactly what it's like. David, let's talk about this example. In this example, I came up with a way to feed back to her the excitement of those best moments in accounting. When I fed that back to her, I was able to see something in her life that most guys do not see. Most guys would have said something like, "So what kind of software do you use as an accountant?" But I was able to see the magic of having all the numbers line up. When I reflected her passion back to her, her eyes got big and shiny. Ron, one thing that I want to highlight in David's example is that he took a risk when he described to the accountant what might be exciting about her job. I like that he said, "I finally found an angle that I thought might work." Let's underline the phrase "might work." When you are having deepening conversations, you're going to be taking risks and trying things out and sometimes falling flat on your face. David and I have enough experience and have failed enough that we have a clue of what might work and what might not work, but the only way for you to get to a place where you know what works is through trial and error. David, with both of my examples, I could have chosen to ask less intimate questions, questions that would have made me more of a friend than a romantic possibility. With the social worker, for example, I could have said this, "Oh, well, where do you work? Is that a good job? Wow, what are the hours like?" Those would have been questions that would have kept me in the friend zone. Instead, I asked, "What is it about that makes you passionate, that makes you feel turned on?" When I met the accountant, I came back with, "It must feel incredible when you have everything balanced." She said, "Yes." It's important to remember that some women hate their jobs, so if you ask, "What do you do for a living?" a woman might say something like, "I work for a dentist, I am his receptionist, and I really hate it." Then if you ask her if there is anything she likes about her job, she's likely to say, "No." If that happens, here's how to handle it. We recommend you say, "Okay, I would be curious to know if you are willing to share. What is it that you are passionate about? What is it in your life if it is not your job?" And for a lot of us, it really isn't our job that really turns you on as a woman and makes you feel like you are really doing something you love. Excerpt 47E, Deepening Conversation 3. Deepening Conversation 3. Ron talked to a woman recently who told him she hated her job, so he knew to avoid asking her about it. Instead, he asked what she's most passionate about in her life. Kate: "I love animals and I volunteer at the pet shelter." Ron: "That's interesting. What are the best moments when you're volunteering at the pet shelter?" Kate: "Some of the best moments for me are when a dog comes in and they are sick, and I'm able to work with them and nurse them back to health. I spend time with them, and then a family comes in and adopts them. It makes me really happy when everything works out well. It makes me feel like I have made a difference in the world." Ron: "Wow, I can see you are a woman who really values making a difference, and that's wonderful." Kate: "Yeah, I really do value helping people." "Thank you. That's nice to hear you say that." Ron: "Well, I don't meet women every day who are so focused on helping people. I think that's really special, and I can see that you are a special woman." Ron: "The point of this example is that a deepening conversation can go well when you ask a woman what she's passionate about in her life and avoid focusing on her job. Asking a woman what she's passionate about in her life is a good way to shift the topic whenever she mentions that her job sucks. It's a good technique to use when a woman starts talking about any aspect of her life that is difficult, stressful, or challenging. You can easily move on to more pleasant topics by asking her what she's passionate about. Excerpt 48. Deepening Conversation 4. Deepening Conversation 4. David: "So Heidi, you seem interesting to talk to. I'd be curious to know what you do for a living. Heidi, I'm a writer and a cook. I cook for a couple of people who are really busy. Both of my jobs are pretty fun. David, that sounds interesting. What do you like to write about? Heidi, I write about cooking, health, and current events. Sometimes I review restaurants, sometimes I write about cooking, and other times I write about health issues. One of the best parts of my job is that I travel and write freelance articles for travel magazines. All of my interests tie together. Ron, let's stop for a second. How is the conversation going, David? David, I'm happy with it at this point. As we examine additional examples of deepening, you'll see how we go from asking what she does for a living to what she's passionate about. I already asked Heidi what she likes to write about, which is a way to start exploring what she's passionate about. By asking personal questions, she sees me as a guy who is interested in what she has to say and who cares about her life. Ron, a big part of deepening is paying attention to details. Romance is in the details. It would have been easy for David to say, "Oh, you're a cook and you write. What else do you like to do?" Instead of overlooking the details and asking mundane, general questions, David was able to dig deeper into specific interests of Heidi's and feed them back to her. Let's go back and look at more of David's conversation. David, I see how it all kind of fits together. The cooking, the traveling and writing about restaurants and food. That's interesting. It is almost as if there is this whole lifestyle around cooking and writing for you. Heidi, yes, that's very much what my life is about. Those are my key interests, and I'm glad that's also how I make my living. David, I know that in every kind of job or career there are parts of it that kind of suck. Maybe it sucks to be washing the dishes or cleaning a kitchen, but I also know there are other moments that are really stellar, moments where you really feel like this is what you were put on this earth to do. I would be curious to know what some of those moments are for you. Ron, I want to butt in here again. One of the classic David lines is what he just asked. He just asked Heidi. It's a great phrase, David. Here's another question I recommend. What might be one of those moments where you feel the work you are doing is really turning you on? When you ask that question, or the one I just put to Heidi, the woman you're talking to will have to start exploring her life in a new way. Let's look at the conversation some more. Heidi, like I said before, I really like to travel, and it's great that I can travel so frequently. I really enjoy meeting new people and seeing new places. Sometimes I am flying somewhere and I think, wow, I am getting paid to do this. David, you are making a contribution to people's lives too. In both the foods you are cooking and in your writing, you're making a difference in people's health. Heidi, that's true. I am really interested in health and nutrition. I like teaching people about it because I believe the emotional, physical, and spiritual aspects of life are all connected. David, that's cool. I've done a lot of cooking myself. Heidi, that's great. David, when I am cooking a meal, it's nice to be in a kitchen where everything is humming along. You've got all these different pots of food cooking, all the ingredients are cut up, and you really feel like you are on top of it all. Heidi, I love that feeling. That's a good way to describe what it's like to be cooking a multi-course meal. David, sometimes I've got a zillion things going and I'm doing one thing with one hand and something else with another. There are many pots of food all cooking, and each pot is cooking at a different temperature and everything is going along just perfectly. I sometimes just get lost in the process. Heidi, yes, that's a wonderful feeling. Ron, let's jump in and make some comment about where this conversation is going. David, I told Heidi that she contributes to people's lives through her writing and her cooking. I decided that it was more powerful to look at how she contributes to people's lives rather than asking what she likes to cook or some less personal question. From there, I was able to admire the fact that she makes a difference in people's lives and then feed it back to her. Ron, in these examples of deepening, you can see how we are able to describe to women the exciting parts of their lives in ways they do not usually see. We are validating something that they don't normally associate with themselves. When we acknowledge those things, like David did with Heidi, we bond with the women. David, I want to point out that I took a risk when I told her that I am interested in cooking. As a general rule, you should limit how much you share about yourself at first. It never ceases to amaze me how often I rediscover that women are not interested in men during the initial conversations. I decided that it was okay to mention that I am into cooking because I thought it would be a bonding detail. I also thought I could use my interest in cooking as a springboard to start describing good feelings associated with cooking. So I talked about how good it feels to have several things cooking at once and how easy it is to get lost in the process. Ron, yes, that was a good segue for her to talk about her experience as a cook. Since you are actually into cooking, it was a good move. There is no reason to lie or even be misleading to get women into your life or into your bed. David, when I mentioned all the pots going at once and being in the flow of cooking, I knew she would relate to that description. When she responded, I could see her eyes light up, and she smiled. When you are able to conduct a deepening conversation and include the romantic moves, you will really stand out from other men. Let's continue on with the conversation and see where it goes. Heidi, it's actually like putting on a show or something because you have all these little components coming together at once. I cooked in restaurants for years and often had the experience of people working together to prepare something wonderful to eat. I know exactly that feeling you're talking about. David, I've noticed that there is a flow when I am cooking. It's almost like you're dancing with it. There is also the moment with the presentation where you are actually putting the food out. I don't know if you ever think about putting the food on the plate and how beautiful it looks on the table. Heidi? Oh yes, I am really picky about that. When I used to cook in a restaurant, I didn't let anyone else do the finishing of the dish. I think it is really important for me to have it balanced visually and to have a nice color contrast going on with the different foods that are on the plate. It is definitely an artistic thing, and I really express myself through the presentation of food. David, those moments are really special. There is all the setup and all the preparation, and then you take a second and look at all the food and feel all the effort you just put into creating something wonderful. You realize that in 20 minutes the food will be gone, but there is that perfect moment just before you serve the food. Do you know what I'm saying? Heidi, yes, I do. I've had that experience frequently in my life, and it's really special. It's really exhilarating. David, I can see that artist in you. I see the artistry in getting the food perfect for people and the artistic presentation. A wonderful meal is something so creative and really gives people an experience. The right meal is so memorable. You put together a meal, you put it in front of your guests, and it is perfect in every way. You've made a real contribution, which is great. Ron, let's jump in again. So how are things going, David? David, I'm happy with how things are going. I see that the conversation has gotten more intense and we're getting along well. First off, there was talk about how great it feels to be in a kitchen. In the back of my mind, I was saying, well, I know I want her to be feeling a sense of connection to me, and I'm seeing things in her life that she doesn't get to share with most people. So I asked myself, what else in the area of cooking might be a moment where she would feel those really good feelings? When I asked myself that question, I decided to mention that the moment of presentation is a moment where you might feel really good. So I asked her about the presentation. Heidi seemed to get off on that question. I told her, I can see that artist in you. She responded positively to that. You can see that deepening is not gimmicky stuff. You can tell from Heidi's comments that she values art, creativity, and self-expression. I am not using cheesy lines with Heidi. I'm trying to find ways to make a deeper connection.